Hello, my dear friends. It's me again, Igor Pogodin. And today we're going to talk about a topic that, by its title, might sound political, although it's not political at all. We'll talk about power, about the people, about the state, about democracy, about the individual. And this video is absolutely not political. So if you can, try to watch this video with your heart on a deeper level. And that means immerse yourself in your own life and your own nature. Don't try to analyze this video with your mind. It won't do much good because this video isn't for the mind, it's for the heart. So let's try to talk about the nature of power. The state, in essence, is violent. That's probably no secret to you. In a sense, the state is evil, perhaps a necessary evil. At the very least, that's how the state presents itself. Maybe I am violence, but I am necessary. Because you really need me to protect you from each other. The main function of the state is, on one hand, to provide convenience in how people function, and on the other hand, to ensure security. Security from neighbors who might attack, and security from the people around you, your neighbors, people from other cities who have come to do you harm, and so on. And all the world's conflicts are based on this illusion because it is precisely states that start wars. All military alliances, which are supposed to protect people and defend the state, ultimately lead to wars. All conflicts, including modern wars, are based exactly on this. States start wars. Wars are not started by insane people. Wars are started by the principles on which states operate, that is, by concepts. It has long been concepts, not people, that wage wars. This is the first such illusion, and that's why I doubt I will ever come to love the state. My psychotherapy will never be a means of fighting against the state, but it will also never be a means of living within the state. I can hardly imagine genuine therapy, or especially psychotherapy through experience, as some kind of state institution that issues government diplomas and deals with some sort of bureaucracy. In general, my relationship with bureaucracy is rather poor. You know, I have a kind of inoculation from the days of the pioneer and Komsomol organizations, both of which I actually managed to join at some point simply because of my age and the era we lived in. But thank God that happened, perhaps, so that I could get that inoculation, so that I could discover a part of life's reality, no matter how much I might want to live differently. And the problem isn't even what was promoted by the pioneer and Komsomol organizations. The problem is that everyone there thinks the same way. And it's precisely these people who become dangerous. This is actually a pretty important point. We sing songs for the people, we value folk culture, and we say that it is the people who are the source of power. After all, democracy is the power of the people, right? Etymologically, yes. Historically, it is the power of the people. But in reality, the state emerged as a way to restrain the people. Because the masses, well, this might not be very pleasant for those who idealize the people. But in essence, if we rely on numerous studies, not only modern ones, but even those conducted in the 19th century on the psychology of the masses, a large crowd of people, is always associated with impulsiveness and irrationality. The people are, frankly, not very intelligent, impulsive, aggressive, and, seemingly difficult to govern. And that's why something is needed that can control them. And it turns out that, in fact, it's very easy to control the masses, unlike an individual person who cannot be controlled. That's precisely why the state came up with special terms. For example, not a person, but a natural person, for instance. Well, that's a good term, isn't it? Who are you? A natural person. Modern legislation. If you look at legislative acts, they are all filled with the concept of not a person. In the Constitution, perhaps you can still find the word person, and in the Declaration of Human Rights, you can find the word person everywhere. But natural person, right? And a natural person is part of the system. And so, in fact, it's these very people who risk becoming uncontrollable and destructive. The state has always had a fear of the people, even though it is supposedly the people's power, but the people must be controlled. Because what may be inherent to a person honor, compassion, the ability to take responsibility for one's actions and to fulfill obligations taken upon oneself, of this is inaccessible to the people as a whole. Not because the people are bad, but because by their very nature it is impossible. You understand, right? Public consciousness is chaotic, impulsive, loud, emotional, and easy to manipulate. Unlike an individual's consciousness, which cannot be manipulated, impossible. A person who has discovered their true nature, because human nature is not the nature of, say, a cell within the system of the state, but the nature of human presence, which a person cannot be governed at all. That is why, in order to rule over the people, the state became necessary. And so the essence of all this absurd hypocrisy is that the state governs in the name of the people while oppressing the people. Such is the nature of any state. I'm not just talking about dictatorships, but also about democracies. Democracy is simply a much more, hypocritical form. If you look at modern democracy, look at the sheer number of mental restrictions people have, you'll find that in today's developed, civilized societies, there are radically more of these restrictions. Yes, perhaps there is no police lawlessness, although that's a separate issue. Yes, maybe you can't be thrown in jail on trumped-up charges, although even that is questionable. We are already seeing completely opposite reactions at this point. But people's consciousness seems to be predetermined. Have you ever noticed that when you travel from a developed country to a developing one, it somehow feels easier to breathe not just because it's corrupt or because you can make deals with officials? Well, there's always more freedom there. In developing countries, business always thrives. Creativity always flourishes. People want to work. As soon as they become a civilized country, they start thinking the same way. They stop creating, not entirely, of course. In any highly developed country, there will always be a lot of creativity, that's for sure. But if we talk about all people, then of course the majority of people degrade into the patterns dictated by the state. Look, go to developed countries and talk to people. They think in a very similar way. Their position regarding some event in the world is predetermined. And then you'll see that you can read about it in the newspapers. People think the way it's written in the newspapers. Remember how it was in Bulgakov? Don't read Soviet newspapers in the morning. People living under totalitarianism, pseudo-democracy, have stopped reading newspapers. They are under the influence of much more powerful means of shaping public opinion. Do you think this cancel culture that has emerged is a free phenomenon? Number, it's a phenomenon of resentment. Cancel culture is the inability to come to terms with one's own insignificance and the hatred inside toward people who might pose some kind of threat to me. And that's why in cancel culture, the apex of totalitarianism is manifested as I see it. In general, in the new ethics of which cancel culture is only a part, I believe we see the apex of modern totalitarianism. I don't want to compare which is better. From the perspective of social structure, I see democracy as the lesser of evils, but in terms of the threat to the individual, perhaps it's the greater one. Just look at those who, like me, are from the Soviet Union. Notice how the culture was formed. People in the Soviet Union all thought very differently. Yes, there was a group of people who thought in a very similar, uniform way. But those who thought about freedom, they all thought differently. They sang different songs, wrote different poems. They had very different life stances. They were very distinct from one another. For some reason, a dictatorship gives rise to free people, while free people create a system in which eventually unfree people appear within a free system. You see, that's the whole paradox, the absurdity and hypocrisy in which all of this takes place. Why am I saying all this? This post isn't political. The video isn't political. I want to offer an alternative. In this whole dynamic, we revel in power. But power is the embodiment of fear. In reality, power is an unnecessary configuration altogether. Power, in fact, is based on disbelief and on a failure to recognize, an inability to recognize human nature. We see other people as enemies, and the masses, the people as a whole, seem dangerous to use, and they certainly can be. And that's when we need the tool of power to protect ourselves, to protect other people. And then all the conflicts, the exploitation of power lead to its numerous abuses. Regardless of the culture of the society to which we belong, power is not necessary. Power is the flip side of abandoning our humanity. In the dilemma between the people and the state, there is always one very important and forgotten phenomenon that gets overlooked: the individual. It is the individual who is the source of everything that culture has created, not the people as a collective. I even think that folk songs were not created by the people, but by individuals. Science and philosophy were not created by the people, but by individuals. To me, when we talk about differences in mentality or cultural characteristics, all of that is complete nonsense. Just like passports, which are invented by states trying to issue visas and control border crossings. We live in an absolutely unfree world, and we place great value on our belonging to a country, to a nation. This destroys something inside the person. If you belong to a nation, then to the extent that you belong to that nation, you are robbing yourself, your human nature. Perhaps some people, especially lovers of the nation and national culture, are already starting to write me angry comments. Go ahead, write as much as you like. With your permission, I apologize, but I can't respond to every comment. Maybe someday I'll do a separate broadcast if you want, but you are free not to agree with me. To the exact extent that we drive nationalism and patriotism into our hearts, to that same extent we deprive ourselves of the nature of presence. They are antagonists in the light of presence. Patriotism cannot survive. In the light of presence, nationalism cannot survive, because in our true nature, I am no different from a resident of China or the mountains of Nepal, Tibet. No difference at all. Because our true nature is the nature of presence, love, generosity, and abundance. But we have convinced ourselves that we are total deficiency, that we are fear, that we live under constant threat. And for that, we absolutely need borders, passports, police, protection, and so on and so forth. I'm not calling for a change in government systems or structures, although I do believe that one day all borders will fall and people will be able to move freely among each other and live in any country they wish. And precisely to the extent that a person opens up to their own human nature, we will see that there is no danger at all. Because our nature is the nature of compassion. The police and penitentiary institutions are the ones who create this threat. It's a paradox, a snake biting its own tail. Because now there is a conspiracy. If there are police, there are thieves. If there are thieves, there are police. If there is good, there is evil. That's how it will always be. That is why the state will always give rise to the distortion, the perversion of human nature. Speaking about myself and the work I do, my main goal is to help people discover their own nature so that at some point I don't think about it, and I certainly don't expect it. I am amazed by your depth and your nature. And perhaps the most I want to expect from myself is to help you discover that within yourself, not to skip over it yet again, not to try to play the games that the larger system plays with you, a system that is no longer even controlled by itself. Surely you understand that it's not even presidents who govern countries anymore. It's the viruses of concepts that have long determined what should happen and have long decided what will happen to humanity 100 years from now. Perhaps the most I can do for you and the most you can do for yourself is to truly realize that you have never been part of the people. You have never been a set of concepts or positions that you have hung on yourself. You have always been a human being in all the vast, astonishing depth of presence. If you even just think about this, I will consider my work already done. Who are you? Ask yourself this question wherever you are, whatever you are doing at this moment. Who am I? And remain present in this question, who am I? And as you remain present, observe yourself, and you will feel within you that from time to time, something is born inside you, not exactly born, but as if it reveals itself, as if a veil falls from your eyes, and something vast, unimaginable, motionless begins to manifest within you, if I may put it that way. That word isn't quite right, but nevertheless, it is something very ancient, something that looks through your eyes. You think that you are the one seeing with your eyes, hearing with your ears, feeling with your fingers, but that's not the case. Something much greater within you, that very consciousness in total silence, it is looking through your eyes. To put it in theological terms, God is looking through your eyes. God is hearing through your ears. And in reality, everything we pile on top of that is all the junk that today's system of government and its concepts exploit. A truly global concept that relentlessly devours, profoundly feeds on human presence and the very essence of human nature, meticulously creates intricate systems, powerful states, complex organizations, rigid rules, stifling principles of bureaucracy, harsh punishment, relentless struggle, devastating wars, and widespread killings all around you, constantly. Most murders are committed under the guise of good deeds, under the banners of light. I assure you, even serial killers, if you were to talk to them, would convince you that they did it for the greater good, that they did it in the name of light and the law. You understand, right? Do you think they are mistaken? Everyone is mistaken, but not you, right? If you are convinced of something to that extent, you are robbing yourself. I mean, convinced in terms of some social position, opinions about who is right and who is wrong. The only thing you can truly be convinced of, and I would like you to discover this, is that you exist. That's all. That's all you need for happiness and freedom. You exist. That is an indisputable fact. You exist. And this something that exists, that is you. But when you become this or that person, you start running away from yourself. When you start saying, I am this kind of person of this age, gender, a husband, a daughter. Have you ever been a son? Are you sure? Have you ever been a mother? Have you ever been an employer? Are you sure? It's just a dream that you're having. And it's a dream in which there will always be room for power, hatred, and totalitarianism, even if it flies under the banners of freedom and democracy. Especially if it flies under the banners of freedom and democracy. You have never been any of these things. You have always been in presence. Thank you, my dear ones, for your attention. If you've watched until the end, come join our programs. As usual, I'll leave links to our programs in the description below this video. Come join USW, have a big, lively, awesome, deep, interesting, and professional team. We provide excellent training in what I believe is the best profession in the world, psychotherapy, specifically Gestalt therapy. And we help people find that inner peace, which in my view is the most valuable and important thing one can have in life. I love and appreciate you all, and we'll see each other again. See you soon.